What up, Wizards? It's Dev from The Place, obviously on my wear the same stupid hat in every video arc, but I'm also back on my nostalgic bull grits, because every time a new Magic set comes out that people just don't really like that much, which almost no matter when you're watching now, could be any time in the recent past, that's Magic. I like to put on that Bobby Womack and go back to a simpler time when Magic was Magic and we made things rhyme. This time we're going to go all the way back to when I first started playing Magic the Gathering, and back then I am so old that the conversation about who was the coolest Magic creature of all time mostly centered around Shivan Dragon and Lord of the Pit. These two dudes vied for the title for a little while after I started playing Magic, but it wouldn't take too long until a brand new set came out that introduced two more creatures that would be considered among the coolest the game would ever see. Now, the set in question is Legends, and the first guy is definitely Dakin Blackblade on the Schoolyard. Everybody loved this dude, man. Look at his sword, and his armor's so cool, and he's kind of smiling at you. I want this dude right now. And he was fun back in the day, but by modern standards, this is just one of those dudes with PT equal to the number of lands you control, so it's just like not that special. And I think that nowadays we can just hand over the undisputed heavyweight title of coolest creature in early Magic to Kanar, the Swamp King, baby. Read him and be whelmed. Honestly, again, by modern Magic standards, this doesn't look like too much. Just 2 in Grixis for a 5/5. He's a legend, and nowadays he's a demon. That's cool to know. But also, he has Swamp Walk. That's a word you may not have heard before. If the guy or lady that you're attacking has swamps, this just gets right in unblockable. We used to have that ability. Makes sense we don't do it anymore. But also, the cool part of this is that whenever anybody, not just you, but anybody casts a black spell, you gain 1 life. And that's it. That's a whole card. Again, not super impressive nowadays, but in context, it's pretty good. Most of the Legends and Legends are awful. God awful even. Like, why don't we just make a 6-mana 4/7? Oh yeah, what else does it do? That sounds okay. No, that's it. That's the entire card. Oh, you're really good at making Magic cards. Oh yeah, I know. I'm really good at this. But what if we made a 7-mana Dimir creature that taps for blue? Okay, what if we made it 6 instead? Perfect, print it. All right, so I don't know where they were going or what they were thinking with half the Legends and Legends, but by those standards, Kanar the Swamp King is actually a really strong card for the mana cost. Gotta admit though, quick aside, that I also have a special place in my heart for Axelrod Gunnarsson. This guy's cool, big Rakdos man, that whenever he damages a creature and that thing goes to the graveyard, then its controller loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. I wonder if that's why I like Blood Artist stuff to this day, is because of Gunnarsson. We're not talking about him today. Maybe one day, buddy. We'll break you back out, but probably not. Today, we better call Saul, because I actually think that it's possible to make a real commander deck out of this card. Problem is, apparently nobody else does. This thing is currently like number 1600 plus on EDH, so not a whole lot of people making decks out of it, and the ones that are messing around with like Swamp Walk and stuff. Okay, I'll make that land a swamp and then I can attack you. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just going to try to combo off and kind of storm off on some turns as much as I can and just try to kill them with all the life that we're gaining, which is easy enough to do, believe me, and I think you could actually do it on a pretty fair budget. But today, for the first time ever, I've never done this with a Commander Deck Tech, I'm just going to not even give myself a budget. I want to make this deck as good as I possibly can, and honestly, I don't feel too bad about it because I know that we all use proxies anyway. Who cares? You guys know I like a budget deck more than the next person most of the time, really, but every once in a while I just want to go hog wild and see how good we can make a deck theoretically, and that is what we tried to do to optimize this thing today. So with that all said, let's look at Kanar the Swamp King and try and make him an actual EDH powerhouse. And I'm your favorite Magic channel's favorite Magic channel. Best believe that the professor go bananas for my deck tech. And we're back to check out our almost completely mono black Grixis list. Yeah, there's some mono blue and mono red cards in here, but we got to keep as many cards in the deck black so that we can, trigger Kanar. Like, other people at the table are probably going to be on black. It's Commander, but we want to be masters of our own fate. Let's cast our own black spells, get our own life gain effects, and then try to throw them back at our opponents. How do we do that? Now, we're going to start with a bunch of cards that effectively do the same thing, just at various mana costs and degrees of difficulty to remove. We've got a Sanguine Bond, an Enduring Tenacity, and a Veto Thorn of the Dusk Rose, who could be particularly good in here if we give all of our dudes lifelink, get him with Kanar and gain a bunch of life and do some damage. So not so bad, but ultimately these all effectively set up the same combo. Whenever we gain life, target opponent loses that much life. So we're just slinging black spells around and saying, you take a damage, you take a damage, you take a damage, and it's going to be a lot of fun just kind of storming off that way. But we've also got Starscape Cleric, Marauding Blight Priest, and even Epic Hero Blood can get in the pool, man. The cool thing about these is that even though they just look dinky and they deal 1 damage to everybody whenever we gain life, we're just gaining 1 life at a time anyway. So in a lot of ways, it's effectively the same as playing the first 3 cards, but in some cases better because these hit all of them, each opponent, rather than having to target a single opponent, which is kind of nice. And honestly, once we get down either an Exquisite Blood or a Bloodthirsty Conqueror, we would rather have the smaller fries than having to play the bigger dudes in the deck and target 1 person at a time. So with that in mind, sometimes stuff like Cleric, Epic Hero Blood, Marauding Blight Priest are actually getting better cards than the 4 and 5 mana enchantments that we're playing. But yeah, again, if we have an Exquisite Blood or a Conqueror out in any of the other cards that I mentioned so far, we can more or less win the game almost on the spot. I know 99% of people watching have seen these combos, but just in case you haven't seen it, one of them says whenever you gain life, opponent loses that much life, and the other one says whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life, meaning that you end up in a big loop where everyone's just dead except you. But I honestly didn't want our big cheesy combo to be the only life gain payoff that we had in the entire deck, so I'm playing some dudes that you might think are silly, but these can actually get huge before it's all said and done, especially stuff like Bloodthirsty Aerialist and Scion of the Swarm, and even for that matter, Bloodbond Vampire. Come on, get in here too, buddy. You know, this is not great, Bloodbond Vampire, because it doesn't have any sort of evasion, but Aerialist does, and even though Scion of the Swarm is 5 mana, it still also does have that evasion, so sometimes you'll be able to get in for whole life totals with just one of these flyers. Some other life gain payoffs we're playing in the deck are Well of Lost Dreams and Witch of the Moors. Both of these are only like $1 right now, so again, like, we're still kind of fine on the budget, all things considered, and these are both great, one for drawing cards, and the other one for getting some advantage out of your graveyard. There are plenty of creatures, like, I don't know, everyone I've mentioned so far that's integral to the combo that you're going to want to keep on the table, and which helps you do that. But just like I wanted some more life gain payoffs, I also wanted some more stuff that actually gains life, not just Soul Kanar. I feel like that's wise. So we got some other cards that look not quite optimal, but are actually really good in this specific deck. I'm playing Diamond Mare as well as Prism Ring. These are kind of the same card, but one's a creature and one's not. You're just going to name black with Prism Ring, you're off to the races. So pretty cool stuff here, but the same is true of Demon's Horn and Staff of the Death Mages, and anytime a deck allows me to play Staff of the Death Mages, I'm pretty happy. And I know the last couple of cards I've shown you might look a little bit goofy, but you'll be happy to be gaining all this life if you ever become the archenemy, and you'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't, how much people hate both life gain and being pinged. So you might become the archenemy quicker than you realize, and again, you'll be happy to be gaining all this life. But our 2 final pieces for gaining life in the entire deck are Grey Merchant of Asphodel and, of course, Exsanguinate. I like both of these in the deck, but Gary is especially cool to, like, play and then loop with, say, a Witch of the Moors and get it back over and over, play it again. There's some cool stuff with Gary, as there always is in a mono black deck, and even in a Grixis deck, it turns out. I think we just have, like, pips in the low 30s for total black pips, but it can still do a lot of damage when it comes down, especially with a couple of our enchantments that have a bunch of black symbols in the costs. And as far as Exsanguinate, I'm just always happy to include this in my black commander decks, and I'm especially happy to do it when just a X equals 0 Exsanguinate can win the game, which does happen from time to time. But we've got one more big trick before we just get to all the stuff that sets the rest of this deck up, and that's Painter's Servant. This thing is really expensive right now and always really scary to see too. Like, Painter's Servant has been a part of some really ridiculous combos over its life cycle in Magic the Gathering, and this one's no different. You know, if we just make every single thing that's not even in play yet, including spells in the stack, black, then we'll probably be gaining too much life for opponents to really do much about. And of course, now we threaten them with just dying on their turn because they cast a spell. We have something set up, so I don't know. I'm definitely including Servant in here. This seems like the ultimate trick in this deck. But that is more or less the core, so with this being Baby's first EDH deck, the rest of the deck is mostly tutors, the occasional rocks and removal, lots of card draw, so let's get through exactly how we're setting up the combos that we've outlined. Now, it all starts with Demonic Tutor and Demonic Council, which is pretty good when our commander is a demon, but in case you don't have Soul Kanar in play, there is one demon in the deck that we can search up with this if we don't have Sol in play yet. So I kind of like that play pattern, but if we have Soul Kanar in play, this is basically just Demonic Tutor, and I'll take that. But we've also got Vampiric Tutor and Imperial Seal. If you want to buy both of these, it's about $200, which is Kind of a lot, but again, we're trying to do some proxy in here. Imperial Seal, I don't know if I've ever actually seen a real copy of it in my entire life, but I sure have seen it in a lot of people's decks. I wonder why. So I'm not going to be too shy about playing it here either. We need a couple of 1-mana tutors to go get good stuff. But we're even on a few 3-mana tutors here, like Insatiable Avarice, Cruel Tutor, and Grim Tutor, a couple of oldies but goodies that are also kind of expensive here, but definitely worth playing to make sure that you always have the ability to go get whatever card you need at any given time. I'll admit that stuff like Insatiable Avarice isn't as good, but, you know, if you got the mana, it draws a bunch of cards, and it just goes and gets whatever you need. So I kind of like all of that. Now, there are a lot of other tutors that we could play in this deck, but I don't really want to, like, sacrifice my creatures to Diabolic Intent. I don't necessarily want to play Gamble in this deck, but these are cards you could play. That's all the tutors I'm on right now, but I do think that that is enough tutors. Especially with all the card draw that we're on, 7 tutors is enough when you have this much card draw. We're playing Bolas's Citadel in this deck, which is a good way to start in terms of black card draw, but this will also help power up Gary a good bit. It'll cast a bunch of black spells off the top of our deck, which will also help mitigate the life that we're actually spending to cast those spells in the first place because of Solkanar's passive ability. Works pretty well with Solkanar. But there's also smaller stuff like Knight's Whisper and Sign in Blood, just a couple of cards that may not pay us back in terms of life total. We still lose a little bit of life when we play these with a Solkanar out, but it's less life. Still, even if our commander didn't gain us life or anything, I would still play these cards in my black deck. I like drawing cards. Baleful Strix is also in here because it's a black spell. We'll gain some life off of it. We'll draw a card. It's going to feel good when we do that. Baleful Strix is just kind of always, again, welcome in my Magic decks. I'll take this most of the time when I can play it. But we've also got blue card draw in here like Mystic Remora and Rhystic Study, which they might ban. They're talking about banning Rhystic Study relatively soon. I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest, but both of these are still good, amazing blue card draw pieces while you can play them. Apart from that, we got a copy of Black Market Connections. Let's draw more cards, but this thing does more than that too. You know, we can put bodies on the table or whatever. We get treasure tokens. Like Black Market Connections is another one that ever since I first proxied it just kind of goes in my black decks now. It's like every black deck I make has 99 cards in it because it has to have Black Market Connections. And also like 12 other black cards. Most black decks I make actually start off at like, I don't know, 40 cards. It feels like the black shells are pretty well established at this point, but Black Market Connections is part of them, and so is, for that matter, Necropotence and Necrodominance. These will also, again, help Gary get as many pips as he can to actually deal a bunch of damage when he comes down, but still, these will just draw all the cards. You know, if we need to draw a tutor to help us get something good, or we just need to draw something good in the first place, we can just draw 1,000,000 off of these, pick them up at the end of our turn, and then kind of plan it out for next turn. We die this turn, that sucks, but if we make it till next turn, we probably got it in the bag. But to make our memes into dreams in this deck, where a lot of our important combo pieces are 5 mana, including our commander, we're going to have to make some big mana, and we got ways of doing that. So let's play Dark Ritual, of course, and Cabal Ritual, of course, which cost a lot of money, but again, I'm not really trying to care too much about the budget in this one. I think Cabal Ritual is a card that a lot of black mages should just have access to in the first place. But there's also Stormscape Familiar, one that you see a lot less often, but in this deck, it's basically a Jet Medallion. Matter of fact, we might as well just also play Jet Medallion. In this, most of our spells are black. I think it's like 67% of our spells are black in the deck. So Jet Medallion is going to decrease the cost of most of the things that we're doing in here, including stuff like Cabal Ritual, which is not bad. We got some normal rocks in here too, stuff like Arcane Signet and Felwar Stone and even the Soul Stone, which despite its price I still refer to as a normal rock, but it is one of the few cards in the deck besides Witch of the Moors that gives us a little bit of recursion, and we might need that late in the game. But we've also got some more powerful rocks in here, like Soul Ring. That's right, it's probably weird if we didn't play that card, but we've also got Mana Vault and Grim Monolith, maybe the 3 most powerful low mana rocks of all time. Let's get those in our deck as quickly as possible. But I'm not going to waste all the time in the world playing mana rocks. I want to play good cards in the deck too, so let's move on to the removal and the counter magic and stuff like that. Kind of bring it home here. We've got things like Essence Pulse and Toxic Deluge to get a couple of wrath effects into the deck, which I think is really important. Essence Pulse can be especially good because it matters how much life you've gained that turn, so be careful not to kill all your creatures with it if you don't want to, but still, again, I think it's important to have an effect like this in a deck like this. And as far as Toxic Deluge goes, it's one of these cards in the deck just like Night's Whisper, Sign in Blood. Like, we don't care about losing black market connections. We don't care about losing too much life to our cards because we got plenty of ways of gaining it back. So something like Deluge is fine. And the same thing is true of Fire Covenant, a pretty interesting find from Ice Age for the deck. This allows us to pour any amount of life we want into the spell, and for just 3 total mana, blow away most of the other creatures on the table if we have enough life to do so. Oh, but hey, here's that demon that I talked about earlier. We've got 1 copy of Archfiend of Depravity in the deck. Not quite a wrath effect on the same level as some of these other things we've already talked about, but it does keep the creature count really, really low, and we can search it up with Demonic Council if we're kind of in a bind. We've also got a lot of stuff you would probably expect, like Terminate and Bedevil. I know that like single target removal isn't the absolute most in vogue thing in the format right now, but I think that both of these are still reasonably playable, especially in a deck like this. And as far as other stuff, there's Snuff Out, Soul Shatter, and Withering Torment. You may expect to see these as well. You could probably work in Feed the Swarm somewhere if you wanted yet another way to blow up enchantments and not just Withering Torment, but I went with that over Feed the Swarm. And as far as Soul Shatter, as far as Soul Shatter, this will actually pick up multiple things at the table at once, which I think we need as many cards that can do that as possible. And as far as Snuff Out, it's free. It's free. Again, we don't really care about losing life in the stack. We're going to gain it back. As far as counter magic, I was playing a bunch more of it when I first started with this deck, man. I wanted Force of Will in here, and then I realized there's like no blue cards. Except for maybe the Counter Squall I was also playing, and then I realized that card isn't good. I was playing original Counterspell at first, so I was like, man, you don't have 2 blue mana enough most of the time, so I'm really just down to 1 Offer You Can't Refuse and 1 Swan Song in the deck. A total $10 package of counterspells here, but both of them just 1 mana apiece, and when you're trying to kind of storm off on your turn and gain a bunch of life playing black spells, it's nice to only have to hold back 1 mana. These are also really good at protecting your commander, your plan, your combo pieces, all that. So mostly you got to use these wisely, but make sure that their opponents are not breaking up your plans. They're really good at that. But we've also got Fierce Guardianship and Deflecting Swat for similar reasons. You know, these are effectively like kind of free-ish, more or less, as long as you have Sulkanar out and somebody's trying to do something about them, you can tear up their world for free, and I like that. And finally, in the non-lands, I might as well tell you that we're playing the Lightning Greaves and a Swiftfoot Boots, because we really got to protect Sulky while he's out. I don't want to pay 5 mana for him in the first place. I especially don't want to pay 7, 9, 11 mana, whatever ridiculous cost it's going to end up being before the end of the day. Let's try to keep him out as much as possible with all these spells that protect the commander and with a couple of cool equipments. We could play stuff like Mithril Coat and Darksteel Plate, but I didn't quite find room in this deck, but I wouldn't blame you if you did. And finally, into the lands. I'm not going to show you the entire land pile here, but it's something like 36 lands in the deck, especially when you count MDFCs. Land count gets a little bit higher. We are playing Hagra Mauling, Fell the Profane, Malakir Rebirth. Again, some of this protects our commander, some of it just blows creatures up, but it's all lands. I like that about it, but maybe the most important land in the deck is probably the Urborg. Like, if we turn every land into a swamp, well, now we have a Swamp Walk Matters deck on our hands, and I don't love playing like cards in my actual deck that have an opportunity cost that turn lands into swamps, but I'll take an Urborg, and if I have to, I'll just tutor it up, make it my land drop for the turn, and get in for 5 suns. So there are cool things you can do with Urborg, obviously. I'll take it. But ooh-wee, that is Itsky Lewitsky. And yeah, I probably could have worked in more Extort creatures. Maybe a Cryptghast or something like that would be good once we have our Urborg out. Delicious. But in the end, this is how we decided to go with it. It is mostly tutors and card draw and stuff like that to place a combo down. I'm sorry to be boring, but that's how you often win games of Magic, which is mostly what I'm trying to do. And we're still playing a 5-mana commander. I don't know if we're going to bust open EDH anytime soon, but I still just wanted to build like the most optimal Sulkanar deck that I possibly could, and I feel like we got there. Of course, if you don't think we got there and you think like Blood Bond Vampire or Witch of the Moors could come out of the deck, then let me know what you would slide in to kind of help improve things here, right? You just want to throw in a Mishra's Bauble? Are we being that guy? Probably, but either way, this was a really fun deck. Street Wraith? Yeah, it doesn't play Street Wraith. That'd probably... maybe, but either way, this is a fun deck to build, and I'd do it all over again. And I reserve the right to build a budget Sulkanar deck in the future. I just might. And to get to do it with the homie, Sulkanar, that's a dream come true, man. In a lot of ways, it feels like this is a deck tech I've been waiting my entire life to do. So I hope you did enjoy it. If you remember Sulkanar, go out there and try to see what you can do with this. Again, it's like $5,000 on Card Kingdom, but we all proxy cards. It's fine. We just proxy the cards. It's fine. There's going to be one deck where I don't have to care about the budget, right? But anyway, if you get a chance to try it, awesome. And if you've never seen Sulkanar in your life before, I hope this was a fun introduction. This dude used to be all of our favorite guys. guy, and there's a reason why. But that's all, Ski Lieutenant Kowalski. So do all the YouTube stuff, like the videos, subscribe to the channel for more stuff like this. Got a feeling that as more Universes Beyond come out that people don't care about, I'm going to be doing more Commander decks and Pauper content. A lot of you guys asked me to do Pauper EDH. I'm looking into it. It's really freaking slick looking format, so having fun kind of diving into that one. But expect like maybe a smattering of different content every now and again, at least until Lorwyn comes out. And if you're watching this after Lorwyn comes out, thanks for continuing to push the numbers on this video. We got a Patreon. You want to support more content like this and even help choose it if you want to do that. We do votes and polls around there. It's kind of the big reason to be a patron, I think. You want to go ahead and just do that. It's $1 a month. Nothing else in the entire world is $1 a month, and you'll be supporting this kind of content along with other viewers like you. So I'd appreciate it, but if you're just still here watching the video, I appreciate that too. Either way, I've been Deb from The Place. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love and be kind.